All right, let's dive right into a really powerful truth found in Psalm 9. When it feels like evil is winning, what's your greatest weapon? Well, according to this psalm from the King James Bible, it's declaring God's sovereignty. We're going to explore this together and see just how practical and powerful this ancient song really is.
So let's get started. We're going to begin exactly where the psalm itself begins. And it's not with a complaint about the problem. It starts with a really powerful choice, the choice to praise. Just listen to this incredible commitment that David makes right at the start. He says, I will, I will, I will. See that? This isn't just a suggestion, it's a firm decision. He's actively choosing to praise with his whole heart. And that doesn't mean you have to feel perfect. It's about being all in, totally focused in your worship.
So what does wholehearted praise really mean? Well, it's an intentional act. It's a conscious choice you make to shift your focus. Instead of getting bogged down by your circumstances, you deliberately start looking for and talking about God's marvelous works. You're declaring them for everyone to hear.
And here's the first big takeaway for you. Your praise, it's so much more than just a feeling. It's a declaration. It's your testimony. You're intentionally putting what God has done on display. It's about making rejoicing in Him a decision no matter what's going on in your life.
Okay, next up, let's get to the core of the psalm. David grounds his praise in something solid, God's unchanging character. And you'll see why this foundation is so critical, especially when you're going through tough times.
David paints such a vivid picture here, a huge contrast. On one hand, you've got the power of nations, the enemies and the wicked. Their power comes and goes, right? It rises and falls. Their threats might seem huge right now, but the psalm says even their memory will perish. But then look at the other side. You have God's throne. It's forever. It's perfectly righteous, and it's set up for judgment. That is where you find real, unshakable stability.
And this right here shows the other side of God's character so beautifully. He's not just some distant judge up in the sky. He's also an intimate refuge. You know that word refuge? Think of it like a high, safe fortress. It's a place where the enemy just can't get to you. So if you're feeling oppressed or you're stuck in a time of trouble, this is an incredible promise of protection.
So the psalm makes this really crucial connection. How can you actually trust God to be your refuge? Well, the answer is by knowing His name. And we're not just talking about a title here. The name of God refers to His entire character, His reputation, everything He's done and proven Himself to be. And the promise that follows is just rock solid. God has never, ever forsaken those who truly seek Him.
All right, now this next part is fascinating. We're going to look at a kind of spiritual law that this psalm reveals. It's all about how God's justice works against evil, and it's almost like evil has its own built-in self-destruct button.
The psalm lays out this process so clearly. First, the wicked come up with a plan, some mischief. They dig a pit or hide a net. Then, they set the trap, thinking they're going to harm somebody else. But here's the twist. In the end, they're the ones who get caught. They fall into the very trap they created for someone else.
And if you want a perfect example of this, just look at the book of Esther. You've got the story of Haman. He built these huge gallows specifically to execute his enemy Mordecai. And what happened? Haman himself ended up being hanged on them. It's that spiritual law in action, clear as day. So it's really important to get this. This boomerang effect isn't just some random karma or a coincidence. No, according to this psalm, this is one of the main ways God actually shows His righteous judgment to the world. He's making His character and His power visible for everybody to see.
Now, building on that idea of God's justice being made visible, the psalm shows us two very different final destinations. It's a powerful contrast between where the wicked end up and what the future holds for the humble.
First, there's a pretty serious warning. You see, forgetting God isn't like forgetting where you put your keys. It's an active choice to live your life as if God just isn't there. And the psalmist is clear that their destiny is to be turned into hell, or Sheol, a place where they are ultimately separated and even their memory is gone.
But right after that heavy warning, you get this incredible, hope-filled promise. It's a complete shift for the needy, for the humble, for those who are poor in spirit. Listen to this. Your current struggle is not the end of the story. You might feel forgotten by everyone else, but God has not and will not forget you.
This is the anchor you can hold on to when you feel helpless. The hope you place in God is totally secure. It has an eternal guarantee. It's not going to fade away. It won't perish, and one day you're going to see it fully realized.
So the psalm brings all of this together, God's character, his justice, his promise, and it channels it all into one final, powerful prayer for the whole world.
So after seeing all this, after looking at God's eternal power versus the temporary nature of evil, what do we do? What's our final faith-filled response? How are we supposed to pray?
Well, the psalm doesn't leave us hanging. It gives us the answer. The prayer is, "Arise, O Lord." It's this bold, confident call for God to step in. And it's not just about us. It's a prayer for arrogant human powers to be put back in their place.
You know, when it says pray for God to put them in fear, what does that really mean? It's basically asking God to give the world a divine reality check. It's a prayer that the powerful nations and rulers of this world would be humbled and forced to remember, hey, we're just human, that they're mortal, they're limited, and in the end, they answer to God.
And that brings us right back to where we started. That act of praise, that wholehearted worship, it's not just a nice song. It's a powerful protest against injustice. When you praise God, you're boldly declaring a reality that you might not be able to see yet, but that is already true. That God is on his throne, his justice will win, and his kingdom is the only one that lasts forever. Now, to really make sure these powerful truths from Psalm 9 stick with you, go ahead and use the flashcards to review the key terms we talked about, and then be sure to take the quiz.